right, we've got a full group today. This is wonderful. I'm going to hold on just a couple minutes because I can see the attendee number going up as people are coming into the waiting room since I just started it. So we'll get started in just 1 minute. Yep, it's growing. The attendees list is doubling as we're speaking. So just a minute and I'll introduce everybody. And it looks like the meeting is being recorded on my end. Okay, yes, the other panelists can see that as well. Just perfect.
And I was going to say, Kim, Tom, Elaine, hi. I'm Danielle Randolph. I am the advocate with Abner Weicker, and I'm unable to attend a lot of these, it seems, but today I was able to hop on. So I am here. It looks like Renee is going to be handling questions, which is fantastic. So I will just be listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Kristen.
Hello.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi. Tom, I don't think we've met before. I'm from Disability Rights Ohio. I am the team leader for our education and employment work.
Well, it's lovely to meet you, and we appreciate the opportunity to come here today.
Great to have you.
Yes, and I'll just take it from here just to say thank you. We're so excited to have you guys today. But everyone, welcome to our Ohio Special Education Legal Clinic. It is a collaboration between Abner Weicker, Disability Rights Ohio, DRO, and the Ohio Coalition for the Education for Children with Disabilities, which is OCECD. And as some of you may know, but some of you may be new, we do hold this workshop on the third Monday third Monday of every month. Thank you guys. From 12 to 1. And then afterward, we do have availability for individual guidance sessions. You're able to sign up on the website, hopefully where you registered for this, but it is students.com/legal clinic. If you would like to enroll more. Today, our topic is on family engagement and special education. And I was going to say, I will in just a minute turn it over to the Family Engagement Center, but I did just want to pause for a second just to say that during their presentation, which will cover a lot of awesome things, questions might arise, and that is a-okay. We've got a Q&A chat box down at the bottom. Feel free to type in your question. Myself, I'm Renee Stromsky. I don't know if I did introduce myself, but I'm from Abner Weicker. We've got Danielle Randolph from Abner Weicker on here, Elaine Hamilton from OCECD, and Kristen Hildebrandt from DRO. DRO will all be monitoring the chat, and we'll kind of interrupt Tom and Kim as we need to. Hopefully not too many times, but we'll interrupt them, and they'll answer the question if they can, and if it's something they're coming to, they'll pass it on for a little bit until they get to it. But without any further ado, I'll turn it over to Tom and Kim.
Thank you so much, and again, thank you for having us here today. As was mentioned, my name is Tom Capretta. I'm coming from the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center, which is a center within the Ohio State University's College of Education and Human Ecology. And I'll talk more about kind of what our center does and who I am and who my colleague here, Kim, is in just a second. But first, let me, if I can, share some slides here. Perfect. And now we will introduce ourselves. Kind of forgot the order of things I had planned here today, but so happy to be here. And you might be wondering why you might want to be listening to me today. Well, my name is Tom Capretta. I have had a winding road through education careers. I've been in public education for over 10 years now, but as a teacher, a state education agency administrator, so working at the Ohio Department of Education at some times. And now I'm here as a researcher at the university, and my research really focuses on how families and schools come together to support the success of children, or maybe sometimes how they don't, and what that looks like, and how we can improve those things today. Specifically to special education, I do specific work in that area as a family engagement is dedicated to ensuring that all families have what they need to support their children at the time they need it. And so I support our team looking at issues specifically related to students with disabilities and their family as well. And I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Kim Moritz, today to tell you a little bit about herself. How are you doing, Kim?
I'm well. Thanks, Tom, for inviting me. My name's Kim Moritz, and if you notice from my email, I work at State Support Team 6, which is a part of a state system of support. And so I get to work with Tom in the Family Engagement Center. So one of my roles at the SST is supporting family engagement in our region. And I'm on the special education team. I also focus on transition and graduation for students with disabilities. But most importantly, I think the reason Tom invited me today is that I'm also a parent of a young man now who is 24, who has significant disabilities. So we've been through the process, we've been through the system, we've been through these relationships with school districts. So I'm just here to kind of share not my professional side as much today, but more my personal side. So feel free to ask any questions. And I also have got to work multiple times with Elaine with the coalition, a little bit of stuff with DRO early on in our adventure through education. But thanks, Tom, for inviting me to be here with you today.
Thanks, Kim. And that's exactly kind of snapshot of where we're headed today. We want to keep this conversation real. We're going to share some stuff and when I say stuff, I guess I mean resources more specifically for families as they navigate planning for their child's future and connecting with the school in a way that's positive and productive, as well as, taking on any kind of questions you might have pertaining to this, because part of what we'll uncover today is that family engagement is a relationship, and a relationship takes two parties to kind of engage in. And even when one party is maybe not holding up their end of the bargain, there's still kind of certain things that we might be thinking about to make sure that we're putting ourselves in the best position to be successful in there. So we want to be able to answer questions about that. And so I invite you, as you see up on the screen, to use the question and answer feature in this webinar throughout the meeting to just really be sharing any thoughts, concerns, questions about family school partnership that might arise, maybe something you even brought in here today. We want to be able to take these on and make sure that we're talking about things that are relevant to you and point you in the right direction of kind of any resources or opportunities to make sure that you can get what you need to be successful and feel confident supporting your child. So hopefully, if you know where to get to that Q&A, I know on mine, I have to go, to the menu bar there, click there, and something will pop up for you. So hopefully you can find that. Let us know if you cannot. So what we want to do today, I want to tell you a little bit about the center. Family engagement is a really important part of education. It's foundational to all educational pursuits, at least maximizing the outcomes for the pursuits that we hope to change the lives of children. So we'll let you know where we're coming from, kind of what our positionality is and what we do. We're also going to have a conversation with Kim, just kind of about the important things from a parent's important things from a parent's perspective about connecting with the school, things that we might consider, even good times, bad times. How do we approach this in an ongoing, consistent way that's going to benefit us and our children? And we'll talk a little bit also about resources directly, how to get them on our website, and how to connect with us and other organizations who can support this work. Because our center and Kim's place of work, as well as Elaine Hamilton's place of work, who was introduced on this call, is part of kind of a system of supports that's in the state for families. And we hopefully can, one of these organizations can support you kind of in whatever part of your journey or whatever questions you're having. I see one question already came in, and so I am going to just state this out loud right now and then maybe come back to it in a little bit as we think about it. We hear a question about which organization could help advocate for a reduced schedule. And I think that is an interesting question that we can get to in just a couple slides here. Maybe we'll get to it when we start building a relationship with school and how you might do that. But again, please keep sending those questions and we're going to get to them. We're going to address them. So who are we at the Family Engagement Center? We are a collective of former teachers, former school administrators, researchers, people from community organizations like OSU Extension or other nonprofits, maybe in immigration space, who are really focused on the partnership aspect of school and what that can do for students and families and also schools. There's a lot of researchers we'll see in a second to basically say that it benefits everyone involved if we do it well. So our mission here is pretty straightforward. It's to support the development and academic achievement of children by providing tools and trainings to Ohio's families and schools for building effective family school partnerships. And that's what we're here today. We're always trying to take on the new questions that are coming up in education and affecting families. So not necessarily particular to disability, but you'll see things coming from our center right now about artificial intelligence. Like, how do you navigate this new situation where your children might be engaging with a chat bot on a daily basis? What does that type of repercussion have for social development, cognitive development? Should we be worried about the information kids are sharing? You've heard a lot about absenteeism and attendance and learning loss and stuff like this that's maybe more targeted at the general education students, however, affects the entire operation of schools, kind of when taken as an urgent priority. So how should parents be thinking about those things if they're hearing their schools think about this? All that to say, those are just brief examples. We're always just trying to hear what's coming in from families and what's concerning to be able to speak directly to that. And we do that from a place of that is research informed. We view ourselves as a translational research center. As you see here, we are in the SEAT, or the Center on Education for Training for Training for Employment. So this is a center within the College of Education and Human Ecology, where basically what they do is take all the education research that gets done on a certain topic that we know rarely gets read by the public, sometimes because they can't even access it, even if they do want to read it, and try to take that and make it into an actual tool, resource, or process that can be implemented by a family or a school, to make some progress in the child's educational experience. So that's kind of how we view ourselves. We take what goes on at universities and try to make it useful for real people out in the world trying to solve problems every day. We're federally funded as well as funded by some state projects, specifically around IDEA. And so this is really a national movement over the last decade or so to get families and schools the resources that they need to form the types of partnerships that will make them and their children successful. One thing that comes up all the time is, what is family engagement? Family engagement sounds really nice. It sounds like maybe something we should know, but I think if you take just like family and engagement, it's kind of amorphous. So what are we really talking about here? And one way that I actually think about conceiving it often is just in that partnership aspect, okay? So family engagement to me is anything that a school and a family do together that is kind of like oriented towards one goal for student success. So you might not have to be at a school to be doing family engagement. And that's one of the great misconceptions about kind of family school interaction, is where does it take place? What does it look like? And this is particularly important when we think about families who are supporting children with disabilities, who have limited time resources, who are being kind of stretched financially in certain cases, and of course, managing the regular day-to-day happenings of life. That engagement can look different for everyone, and engagement from a school side needs to be able to address everyone's needs, hence why it's going to look different in certain situations. And let me tell you just briefly what that kind of looks like here. So in the past, you might have thought about bake sales as family engagement, maybe some type of volunteerism in the classroom. You're coming to help out with a family party. You're going to parent-teacher conferences. And don't get me wrong, all of these things are good. And if you were in a school and seeing these things happen, it'd probably be warming to your heart, right? Having people in the community, having people be able to volunteer. But what we think is most important about family engagement is the outcome that it can have for children, and particularly the real outcomes on their academic and personal development as people. So we want to shift a little bit away from this idea of volunteerism around things having to happen at the school to something that's more kind of central, more centered on the family experience, built around trust, something that's systemic, right? So when I say systemic, what's that mean? That your school is a plan and they have a plan to meet everyone's needs where they need them, when they need those needs met. And specific student impacts. So that's one thing, like bake sales are great. But what does that doing for like student outcomes? Maybe it gets a student a type of experience they might have missed otherwise, and that's nice. But we really believe that the research ties this to like a bigger impact than these kind of one-off things. So we want to be sustained and knowing what those goals are. Are we trying to improve some type of academic outcome? Are we trying to improve some type of social emotional outcome? Are we trying to build trust? Because that's something that I talk with schools about often. I will not bring it up so often here today because families actually research shows very often do trust their schools and very often trust the professionals in those schools. It's actually the flip side that is sometimes a little more common where schools and professionals do not fully trust families to meet kind of their expectations of how this engagement happens. And so we do a lot of work with school leaders about what does trust look like? How do they build trust with families? How do they communicate in a trusting way? But today, what we'll really be thinking about is kind of how you can engage around your students' learning or future planning or personal development in a way that's not really at school, or it doesn't have to be at school. And then we'll also get into, okay, and well, now how do we broach kind of the school partnership part from our end? So we're going to be focusing kind of less about these traditional things you might think of and more about kind of things that you can always be doing to be building towards a life for you and your family that you hope for yourself. One reason why we're really committed to family engagement, you might be wondering, why is there a spaceship on the screen? Well, beyond the fact that I like spaceships and I got to make the PowerPoint, we have a spaceship on the screen because, like I said, family engagement can be hard to conceptualize sometimes specifically, but at its core, family engagement is really like a rocket launch into space. And what I mean by that is that just like down in Houston or Cape Canaveral, when they're about to do one of these major missions into space, it is not just this singular moment of countdown, right? And it's just not astronauts launching to the moon or wherever we're headed. I hope we go back to the moon. I don't think that's happened in a long time. But anyways, this launch has required mathematicians, engineers, uh, people who are basically cleaning the buildings and making sure that we can use the facilities that are maintained. It requires a long history of us understanding physics and being able to express that to each other in ways that are meaningful, and having a room full of maybe over 100 people come together in one moment to move this machine forwards, and not just forwards, but out of our stratosphere and into the goal of space. That's just what family engagement is here. We have schools filled with teachers and administrators and support workers and related service professionals, along with everyone outside of the school that you might be accessing for support, working together alongside you and your vision for success. And when that all comes together nicely, we believe in the potential to launch all students to a life that they view desirable and meaningful to themselves. So that's kind of what our goal is today, and with some of the resources I'm going to be sharing with you in a moment. So I'm going to pass it over for just this, or in just a second, to Kim to talk a little bit from her perspective around some of these things and how you might think about and conceive partnership with your school. But we did get this question in here kind of about an organization that might help advocate for a reduced schedule. And I know that we do have parent supporters on here who work in this kind of professionally. And I'm wondering, I'll offer that maybe that is a space for kind of to identify the support of maybe a parent mentor who could help guide that in some ways, or even maybe checking in with another agency like the coalition or some sort. But I'm wondering, Kim, from your professional experience and personal experience, if you have thoughts on that too, and then of course hearing from you.
Thanks, Tom. Renee, did you want to answer that? I just saw that your for the Q&A was just you'd like to answer the question live. That would be just us answering it.
Oh, that was that one Tom had
Okay.
started answering earlier.
Gotcha.
Which organization could help advocate for a
Okay.
reduced schedule. So I think if that was ready to answer now, you could answer that one.
Sure.
But I had just clicked live because Tom was answering it at that time.
Okay, wonderful. Sorry.
ahead.
My first question, I guess, would be why you want a reduced schedule, or why that would be an appropriate thing. So just wondering that and making sure that you have the right information from your IEP team to be able to make that decision. I do think that the coalition would be able to help with that. I do feel that the SSTs would be able to as well. But it's finding out the why and making sure that you have high expectations still for your child, and that your IEP team still has high expectations. So those are the first two things that popped into my head. But maybe a little more, if you have a little more detail, that may be able to help others in the group too, to answer that question.
Yeah, the coalition we're not advocates, but we will help the parent learn techniques and what their rights are and their procedural safeguards, and how they can go in and advocate for their child and help them walk alongside them while they do that. So we are definitely here if there is not a parent mentor in your district.
And I would say DRO is available to do the same thing that the coalition can do. And depending on what the specific facts are in the case, we may be able to do more. So for example, if you're looking for a reduced schedule because your child's having behaviors in school and they keep getting kicked out of school, that would be something that we could help with. So it just really depends on what's going on.
Thank you, ladies. One of the things that I wanted to mention to you guys too is, in building a relationship with your school, the key thing is a relationship. And I've got a lot of relationships going on right now, professionally, personally, and I don't think that there's a single one of them that's ever been smooth. That's been like unicorns and rainbows and sunshine. It's just the same thing with your child's IEP team. You're always going to have bumps in the road. The important thing is communication, and having communication, open communication, including the times that that you don't understand. And it's okay to say that you don't understand, and it's okay to ask questions. You are a key member of your child's IEP team. And it doesn't mean that you're the boss of the team. It means that you're a key member of the team, and you're allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to advocate. And I also want to encourage you that when you're asking, I always think about advocating with grace and being nice about it, being kind about it. And there are times where you're going to get upset. I've cried, I've gotten mad, I've gone through all those emotions, but I try to remember my number one goal is to do what's best for my child and try not to let my emotions get in the way. It's going to happen. Absolutely, we are human, but I try to advocate with grace in all of the work that I do. And remember that the other members of the IEP team, they're people too. They have feelings. And I always presume I always presume and I always trust. I presume that the best in people until something happens, and that's with any relationship too. I also think trust is important. Now, Tom did just mention this too, that a lot of times that parents or family members have trust in the school, but then the trust issue happens with the schools trusting the parents. So we need to make sure as parents and as family members, who whatever's on that IEP team, that we are following through. If we get an email, if we get a phone call, we have timelines, we have expectations. We need to be able to respond to those too. If you have a preference in your communication, share that preference. Like, I can write emails all day long. I am good with my fingers. I can type all these beautiful, amazing emails. But if the people that I'm sending them to, email is not their most comfortable zone of communication, it's not an effective method to use. So be able to share what works best for you. Like, I've got my phone with me all the time. I can text quicker than I can take a phone call. So share that information with your team. So your team, the IEP team, can trust that you're going to communicate, that you're going to get back, that you're going to give information to support that process. I also really encourage you to have high expectations for yourself, for your child, and for the team. There are times when it's going to be a struggle, when the goals on the IEP may seem like they're way out there, so but we want rigor, we want high expectations thinking, and we want those members on our team. And I'm not just talking education team, I'm talking medical team too. If you have a child that has those needs as well. So you may find in that whole process too, that as you're trying these different things, as you have these high expectations, you may find that ends up not being an appropriate task or an appropriate goal for your student, your child, and that's okay too. We're learning together, we're transitioning together, because you're only in school, our kiddos are only in school for 12 plus years, a couple extra years there, but we've got a whole extra length of time that's outside of school. So that's why transition is important. And I will tell anybody this too. You've got lots of time to make your transition plans, because we've got to get out into the community. We want to be happy, we want to be successful and thrive outside of education, outside of school. So of course, there are times where things don't go the way that you plan, no matter what your advocacy that you're bringing, that positivity, that grace that you're bringing to the table, that communication that you've done. And that's when you have your procedural safeguards in place. Those are available to you to use. But I encourage you to go through the chains, communicate, make sure that you have those conversations with the teacher, with the special ed director, the principal, the superintendent. Go through those chains, have those conversations, have those expectations. If you're still not getting those, and it happens, then you have options in your dispute resolution. And all those are listed in your procedural safeguards. And that's what DRO is here for. That's what the coalition can help to guide you with. And if you have parent mentors, they're able to help to provide that information to you. But know that you have those in place, because not every relationship's a good relationship. And then Tom at the center, at the Family Engagement Center, they're always coming up with new PD. So they're looking at supports that districts need. What are districts struggling with? Family-friendly letters, finding funds of knowledge, what's important to families, what assets do families have? Those are the amazing kinds of resources that Tom's going to share with you here in a little bit. But there's a center designed just for this, to support these relationships. So Tom, you want to go back and share your goodies?
I was on mute. Got me. Sorry about that. But thanks, Kim. And please keep sending in questions so we make sure that we can get to the nitty-gritty of what you're hoping to kind of learn here today. But I appreciate Kim sharing her experience, because kind of highlights of course what many here are experiencing, that some things are good, some things are bad, and some things are kind of rough for a long time, and we need to know what resources we have to navigate some of those things. And some things like that Kim just mentioned that I think is really interesting is going through the channels and really taking the patient effort to kind of really try to navigate the school and school district first is useful, not just because that's a good practice, but if you do call the Ohio Department of Education, to the dispute resolution office or something, they're going to ask you basically, have you done these things to try to avoid a dispute ahead of time? And many times you will have, of course, or you might feel like, this is going beyond me sending another email to someone else, and that's totally fine. But just full knowledge that is kind of what even your formal pathways to resolve things will ask you to do sometimes. And then also, as Kim mentioned, us developing kind of new resources for both families and educators, and then professional learning for educators. We actually get data from the Department of Education's Office for Exceptional Children on their complaints, and we kind of code them into groups. So, like every time we are looking at producing something for families of youth with disabilities, we're really drawing topics from what families are calling the Department of Education and alerting them to the most. So we hope that you'll see that some of this, meets your needs. Another funny kind of thing that I thought of during Kim's comments is I recently had a listening group with many families of children with disabilities. And of course, that's a time when people are able to vent. And we listen to that venting and we try to identify kind of ways that their experiences can help other families, or that we can kind of mitigate those experiences from happening again. And one skill that, I wish didn't have to be a practice, but I thought was quite interesting that one mother brought up was that when she gets really frustrated with her school, and she had shared a couple things that had gone sideways over the last couple years in kind of their process of receiving support, and it was really hard for her to not blast off that first email, where you're really feeling a lot and you're overwhelmed, and you really want to let people know what the deal is. And don't get me wrong, you do need to let people know what the deal is. As Kim mentioned, kind of you're part of this team, and you gotta, even if maybe they're not making a space for you, propel yourself into that space as part of the team. Well, what this mother mentioned is I gotta let these people know, but I know they're not listening to me when I blast off my first email. So she writes an angry email to Chat GPT and then asks it to make it not angry. And that's just one one way of maybe trying to work through that first wave of justified kind of discomfort and anger when things are not landing where you want them to be. And none of that fixes anything that's going wrong, or kind of where we go next, but just like one little thing that I thought was an interesting tip from a parent who experiences this alongside many of you. Okay, so I mentioned about resources, and that's kind of what we came to bring to you today, most of all, knowing that you'll probably have all different types of interests and concerns about your child's education, and might have different kind of ideas of where you want to plug in. So one thing that we joke about with our website a little bit is we say don't Google anything related to family engagement. We've kind of done that for you. Currently on our website, we have over 400 resources that we've either created or vetted ourselves. So anything you find on our website has been reviewed by our team, and we stand behind it 100%. And if you feel that you disagree, we're happy to kind of talk about that and see what your perspective is. But we kind of organize the website into resources for educators, resources for families, and resources for community partners. And one note before we dive in here too far is that a lot of our resources, I'd say the majority of them, are targeted towards kind of more of a general education population than specifically students with disabilities. You will find a lot of resources specifically towards supporting students learning with disabilities learning and beyond. However, you're going to find a lot of stuff maybe that might still be useful that's not necessarily under that heading. Because one thing that is driving our center is uh, this education for all idea. So focusing on things that are good for everyone first. That said, we will be launching a specific space for serving families of students with disabilities, answering kind of questions about this process and frequently asked questions, like I said, from disputes and complaints at the Office for Exceptional Children in the coming months. So we'll be sure to share about that when we can. But in the meantime, things are kind of tagged by topic, and you can go in and see kind of what is tagged for special education or students with disabilities. And like I said, we kind of organize it into educators, um, community partners, and families. And just so you know, like, what are we even saying to educators about family engagement with people with disabilities? What does that look like? Well, just I want to give you a sample of some of the things that we do tell educators. And this is all coming from a research brief that I'll show you in a second. But, some things that we really harp on for educators is that you have to treat families as experts and value their input. So I think one thing we can do looking at this list is put ourselves on the flip side of it. And you can say, affirm yourself. I'm an expert of my child and my input needs to be valued. That is one thing we believe. So we also think schools should study and implement culturally responsive practices. That means like if they call to set up an IEP meeting on a day that is, sacred to you and your family's religion, and it might not show up on the school calendar, we believe that they ought to work with you around that. And that's how some of these relationship things that Kim was starting, can facilitate that with school districts that maybe are not the most forward thinking about these types of things. Communication's at the core of all family engagement. And like Kim said, it's not just about sending letters home. There's a couple things happening. First of all, as we know, special education is very legalistic. So they can send home letters or requests for things that, if you're not familiar with it or ready for it, can sound downright threatening in some cases, just with the terms that we're using and such here. So we work with schools to kind of soften the letters they send home, even though remaining in kind of the legal responsible, or like what they're responsible for legally and such like that. So that's one thing we work with schools on a lot. And we hope, as Kim mentioned, that they're communicating with you in a way that is useful to you and that you might check. They're not just sneaking something in on the school dashboard that you don't really check messages on at the end of the week, but really contacting you in a way that's meaningful. And if they are required to send certain forms of communication, maybe they can follow up with you in that preferred form of communication. We talk about this team part a lot because we really want the IEP process to be a consensus building process. I know that as a general education teacher, there were times where I didn't really know anything about a child's IEP process and the IEP goal building than like whatever I was proposing the math goal should be for this situation. The general education teacher, the support staffs, they do have a responsibility to know what's going on and kind of be working together to push these goals to the next level for students so that we can really get them where they're going, and that these goals aren't just tied to, a random academic objective, but to where you want to be going in life. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can plan for that and really share that with the school in a few moments. I have two resources in mind that can really help organize those thoughts, that can help shape the goal setting in an IEP team. Of course, we brought this up. Kim and I both work in transition. And so we really believe that planning for transition starts really early and just really starts with conversations about, with you and your family and where you hope your child to end up one day and where they hope to end up one day and what they hope to be doing. Uh, Yep, we hope to support children and youth to be engaged in the ways that they can. Families include students, so how are student voice being incorporated in all this where possible? And of course, we love parent mentors and all of our supports in this kind of statewide system of support. So schools, we hope have them, but if not, as was mentioned, and even if they are, and it's just not helping is well as you would have hoped. Coalition is always there to support your questions and has an array of specialists who speak a variety of languages, a variety of experiences that can really support your knowledge and understanding so that you can get where you're going in this process. That's what the thing looks like. It'll be on the website. I'll show you in a little bit. But again, this is more for practitioners. But wanted you to know what we're saying to them so that it's compatible with what we're saying to you. Hopefully, we're making something useful in the middle here. Like I said, resources for families there, resources for community partners. But here's what I really wanted to share with you. And this is a little messy, but I can drop some of this in the chat for you. I'm going to share some of my favorite resources on the website that I think can get you planning and thinking in the right way. Might give you some more resources when going to a school meeting to kind of feel more confident and be clear about what you're asking for at certain times. So first of all, up here, you'll find this transitiondiscoveries.org website. And this website's really cool. It's really interesting. It like blew my mind last spring when I found out about it and got a demo of it. It's like a really it's like a learning platform and a planning platform for families. So it does have like modules about parts of the special education process and kind of what you might need to know as a family member moving forwards. But the thing that's more exciting to me about it is it also has a student-centered space where students can be going through these kind of same lessons about kind of what is going on in their special education experience. And so they learn about it so they can advocate on their own behalf. And then there are some kind of planning tools in there that you and your family can work on to plan forwards. And then you can take printouts of that to school meetings to say, hey, this is where we're headed as a family. How do you help us get there? IEP team or whatever team you're working with in that meeting. So I really love that. It's a really deep website. It's got a lot going on. But it's free for families and students to use. You just got to sign up with an email, and it's totally worth it. I've been really impressed by that website, and it's kind of like cute too, which is helpful. A lot of things in this space are not cute or fun to deal with, so check that out. This down here, and I'll share all this in the chat or share the slide, is just like a draft kind of narrative that you can use to help send a letter about requesting evaluation. So maybe you're here because you're past that part. But one thing we know is that families are real great sources of information for other families, sometimes even more so than the more official sources of information. So, maybe that's something you say, hey, that's useful. I'm hearing someone ask me questions about my experience and how I got this going. Here's a resource for you to request this evaluation in a way that's going to be legible to school people. Here's some other sister centers to really OCECD and us. The Pacer Center is kind of the coalition of Minnesota, basically, and they have a really great website that complements everything we have in Ohio. You just find different resources there for kind of all stages of the disability journey. So I've worked with this group a lot in the past and really respect the work that they're doing, especially around multilingual and cultural special education processes, which our coalition also does as well. So check that out. And speaking of them, the coalition has these great flyers, these really great kind of like 1-page, 2-page overviews of these important questions. So this is kind of going back to maybe the evaluation question a little bit. What is difference between like IDEA and getting like a medical diagnosis, and how do I kind of like figure out how one supports the other and vice versa, or maybe not sometimes. So that all that to say, Coalition is a great stop for these types of quick questions. And then if you need kind of more additional support, you're already right there to like request some on the website there. Disability Hub Minnesota, very similar to Pacer Center, just another great place with great resources. I use it all the time. They have some really nice brief summaries of kind of the areas of special education that you might have questions about. Our Department of Education put together some roadmaps for families to use that go kind of follow the special education process. I actually use these sometimes in my own work to double check that I'm not skipping any steps, or I'm not talking past anything, or we know what's kind of going on here. So love that. Just a nice overview, and that could prompt you into some newer discussions as well. This is a logo for Charting the Life course, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, but again, is kind of like Transition Discoveries, where that's going to give you tools for forward planning, for really identifying what your family and your child values and where they're headed, and what needs you might have to get there. And this is a really great tool because, like Transition Discoveries, you can take one of these resources that you did together, bring it to the school and say, hey, this is the goal, help us get to this goal. And that's a really great starting point for conversations. I also put this in here because I love what the coalition is doing with youth empowerment project here. So they're really getting out in front of the youth self-advocacy, because really for many students at one point, they're going to lose some of the support and they have around them, and really knowing what they need to develop in themselves as a people to continue to be able to advocate for their own needs kind of out in the world and among other people is really useful. This is a cool place where there's things like videos, podcasts, kind of like comic strips almost, these really interesting and interactive ways of thinking about things like social skills and self-advocacy and stuff like that. So never too early to start, supporting your child to be thinking about themselves in this way as appropriate. So these are some of my favorite ones. I'll pause here for a second to see if people have questions. And also, not to put you on the spot, Kim, but I'd be happy to invite you to come back and see if you had any comments on these or had any others that you might like to offer.
I like the one about medical diagnosis versus educational eligibility. And I actually shared this with Dayton Children's Hospital. I'm on their parent advisory council because a lot of times families will come to the schools and say, well, I've got a prescription or a diagnosis from my doctor for autism, for example. So now I need an IEP. So that's just not how it works. So this is a great resource. It could be how it works, but this is a great resource just to get a general overview of what that looks like. But I shared it with the medical staff there through the Family Advisory Council because I'm like, we need to also get this into the hands of those professionals to help to support families with this same process, but just getting the right information in their hands. So great job, Coalition.
I'm glad that you guys like that. Aaron Hinkle and I wrote that together, and we have a newsletter that goes along with this tip sheet. And there's a QR code on the bottom of this tip sheet. So if they want more information, the newsletter goes more in depth of what we had to say about this topic.
Because it's a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one, and it's like many other things in this space, quite confusing at certain points, especially if the crazy thing about the special education process is everyone in it had to do it for the first time at some point. So you never know what you don't know, and can be a lot of information to go through. So we hope that some of this is useful. I see a question coming in, can we get a copy of the PowerPoints? Just asking those in power in the room if that is like a possibility, like send out afterwards, or if I should get an email situation going.
Renee, how are you sending that out to people?
I
Agent.
believe we can make it accessible on our website afterwards.
Okay.
I don't know if I don't have the ability to send it to an email for everybody. I will have to check with Mark. He might be able to send it as an email to all the people who have registered, but if not, definitely once we upload the recording of this to the website, lawyers4students.com/legal clinic, I'll have him make sure that there's not only a link to the YouTube for this recording, but also a PDF if you guys can send that over.
Absolutely. Be happy to
Or
send that
whatever.
over. Oh yeah, absolutely. Whatever works. Want to make sure anyone who wants this can get this. The one thing I can also offer, and we'll do that too, but if you're really excited about it and want to get it ASAP, I can put my email back up at the end of this and you can jot that down. I'd be happy to forward anything to anyone or point them in the direction of anything we talked about today. So we've just got a couple minutes to wrap up here. And so do want to just say, hey, check it out. Click that QR code or scan that QR code, see what's on the website. That takes you right to the website. So feel free to scan that, bookmark it. Basically, that's what I want to do on this slide. So sorry for running out of steam there. But yeah, please check it out. Click around. Like I said, I think you'll find things there that are broadly useful beyond just thinking about special education, but that we do have a bunch of resources for that too. Also, like I said, Kiva bookmarked a more prioritized space for education for people with disabilities is going to be popping up here in the next couple months that we're working on. So very excited about that. And hopefully that'll be of use to you as well. I'm going to just invite one more time, any more questions as we have just a couple minutes left here today. I hope that you felt that we answered the ones that came in satisfactorily. Um, so that's cool. And outside of that, I'll just kind of let you know that on our website, you can, beyond our website, you can connect with us on Twitter. We have a family to family newsletter that comes out bi-monthly. It's on a different topic every 2 months. And in there, we try to share some general information about that topic as well as some resources. Recently, we did do one on transition, so that's up there as well, something to check in on. We do collect stories from families. As I mentioned, we all are, but I am too very committed to like not just guessing what is going on out in the world, but hearing from you first and then trying to address that. So always great to hear from you. Always great to hear great stories too. We put those on display on the website as well. And then, send us our feedback anytime if something's not working for you. This is all our handles and stuff, but I'll run back right now to our own emails so that you'll have those for if you got any questions. But yeah, that's pretty much what we came to share with you today, and we really hope that it was a pleasant and useful experience and use of your time here. You can always contact with us. We're very responsive to both family and educator needs and are very committed to getting you in a place where you can communicate confidently and about the things that you want to. So really grateful for being here today. And here are Kim and my emails if you need them right below those bars. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom and Kim. I really appreciate it. I know everyone here really appreciates it. I really appreciate the work that you guys are doing to help just expand the family engagement within Ohio. Just a lot of the things you talked about today really resonated, especially even all the way down to that last part where we were talking about an educational diagnosis, so to say, versus a medical diagnosis. We see that all the time in Abner Whitaker as well. So thank you guys for sharing that. I know it was very informative, and I don't see any more questions in the chat, but oh wait, I see it. Oh, I just see a thank you so much.
Hello, Dee.
I see a thank you so much in the chat. Yes, we are grateful for you as well. And thank you for sharing your contact information. I was going to say, it looks like Kim also put your website link right in the chat so you can click on it. But otherwise, within the next couple days, you will, I would say by the end of the week, this will be uploaded on our website. And then I will be on the lookout for an email from Tom and Kim to get a copy of those presentations. And I'll get those up, or I'll have Mark upload those on the website as well. And we got another thank you in there. And otherwise, I was going to say, Tom and Kim very graciously left their contact information up there. So if you have any questions for them or any of us at the Ohio Special Education Legal Clinic, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, everyone have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again, Tom and Kim, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you all.